YouTube is full of well-written tutorials, masterclasses, and courses out there, and still, you've decided to click on this video.
The hell is wrong with you? Well, you will suffer a lot as a programmer, so I guess this is a good way to start. But hey, at least you're one step ahead and chose to start with Python. It's not like Python was the most used programming language in the past year. You're unique, buddy. This video will cover some of the basics of the language, and also some stuff that can be a little more advanced, and may not be suitable for wandering trash cans. Just a quick disclaimer. I won't be explaining how to install Python, nor a code editor. Just do a quick search on the internet or ask your AI daddy how to do it. Come on, you can do that. Enough yapping, let's get into this. To start, create a Python file in your editor by giving it a name and ending with .py. There's also this alternative version called Jupyter Notebook that can be created with .ipynb, but I've never really seen someone using that one, so fuck that, I guess.
Variables. The simplest yet most useful method of storing data. Imagine variables like your obedient child. You can make them hold something for you and then get it back later. That's how children work, right? In most programming languages, you usually type something before creating a variable. But, Python is built different and doesn't need all that fancy stuff. Just type the name and equal it to a value. Every variable has a data type, which determines the, type of the information your variable is holding. This will determine if the variable is, for instance, a number or a text. Python has a lot of those data types, but you'll mostly use just a few of them. But don't worry, I've created a list of most used data types just for you. 3, 2, 1. Noted that? No? Let's put this shit into practice. You can add, subtract, divide, or multiply the variable by a number like this. Then to visualize it, type print, followed by parentheses, and put your variable inside them. Click to start the program, and it should show your variable's value in this ominous black box down here. If for some reason it doesn't appear to you, you can also declare multiple variables in a single line, making your shitty code look 2% better. When naming a variable, you should name it in snake case, separating words with an underscore. Or don't, if you want people to get mad at you. An if statement is very straightforward. If something is true, then do something.
To create an if statement, type else, then followed by a colon. Nah, did you really believe that? Stupid ass bitch. Type if. Now you want to compare two or more values. To do that, we use conditions. So you can check if a value is, for example, bigger than another or equal or different. There's quite a bit of conditions. So you know what that means. List time. Lastly, finish it with a colon. We also need to talk about indentation, which are these spaces in the start of the line. That's how Python understands if some code is inside a statement or not. To add one indentation, press Tab. Also, most code editors hold your lazy ass hand and already indents your code correctly if you press Enter after a colon. Now this code is indented inside this if statement and will only run if the statement is true. There's also two more optional statements that follows the first, elif and else. Elif allows you to add more verifications. You can add how much of them you want. But don't exaggerate, asshole. For last, else will only run its code if none of the previous statements were true. As I said, those are optional, so you can have an if statement with just an if and else, or an if and elif, or just an if, and so on.
Sadly, you can't have an if and a MILF.
Now, you may be asking, why should I use elifs when I can just use a bunch of if statements? Well, there's a difference. When you use a bunch of ifs, your program will verify every if statement and will run their code if they are true. However, if you use elifs, the program will verify every statement until one of them is true. Then, the program will just ignore the rest, even if they are true. This is also a good time to talk about the or and keywords. Imagine this. You want something to happen if a number is, for instance, higher than 10, but you also want that same thing to happen if that number is equal to some other random number. What would you do? Create an elif statement that does the same thing? No, you piece of shit, use the or keyword. After one verification, type or, and the other verification you need. The code below will execute if any of the statements are true. The and keyword, in the other hand, will only allow the code to run if both statements are true.
From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh.
Loops are used to repeat a block of code.
That is, doing the same thing over and over again. There are two types of loops in Python, the while loop and the for loop. The while loop is kind of similar to an if statement. Here you put a condition. While this is true, the code below will keep repeating once it reaches the last line. Each repetition is what we call an iteration. Usually you want to create a counter and add up to it in every iteration. So when it gets higher or lower than a certain number, it stops iterating and continues. But be cautious when using this type of loop, because you can easily create endless loops and fuck up your program real bad. Though your lack of brain will lead you to doing it anyways. But luckily to you and your stupidity, while loops are not used that often, since we have a more sexy and stylish alternative, the for loop. A for loop looks like this. I is a variable that changes every time it loops, kind of like the counter in the while loop. To keep it simple for now, imagine it stores how many times it has already been looped, starting at 0. And here inside the range function, you put how many times you want it to loop. Unlike the while loop, it doesn't need a manually created counter to avoid endless loops. For loops are often used to analyze or modify a list of items, but we'll come back to that in a sec. You've seen that it's possible to create multiple variables in a single line. Though it may be useful when you have like 2 or 3 values, it can come out of hand when you need more of them, consuming a lot of memory and not being very practicable. That's where lists and dictionaries comes in. Both are made to store multiple values, but behave differently. Create a list by using square brackets and put whatever value you want in it, separating by a comma. Lists can hold all sorts of values, even other lists if you want to confuse whoever is reading your shitty code. Then, when you need a value from a list, type the list name, and again, end with square brackets. Now, put whatever index you want to get that value from. No, not like that. Shit, can you do something right? For once? Here, put the index of the value. That is, the position of the value in the list. The indexes starts at 0, going from left to right. So, to get the funny number, put its index here. That, in this case, is 2.
Oh yeah, you can use the index -1 to get the last value from a list. What really makes lists goated is that you can add, remove, or edit its components at any time. To add a single value, use the append function. If you're greedy and want more, use extend to add a bunch. Note that it needs another list. Remove one by using remove, or completely annihilate the list by using clear to remove all its values.
To edit values is a bit more complicated. Get the index that you want and equal it to something else. Then it will be changed once the program reaches that line. All right, now back to the for loop. Select the range function and shove it up your ass and replace it with a list. Then when you run it, it will print every item from the list separately. Why? Because this motherfucker will now be an item from that list, instead of just a number. So it will start being the first value, then in the next iteration it will be the second, and so on. This will keep going until it loops through the entire list. Time for you morons to understand the beauty of dictionaries. Lists are cool and all, but I mean, you can't really tell what those values mean. And besides, you need to use numbers for the indexes. Like, ew, numbers? Wouldn't it be better if we gave the values a name? Well, conveniently, dictionaries does just that. They are created by using curly brackets and may look like a list at first glance. However, if you try to get a value by an index, Python will want to end you. So do I. That's because you need to give the values a name known as a key. To do so, type the name you want to give to a value before it and follow it with a colon. The names can be stuff like text strings, numbers, or booleans, but you'll mostly use strings for it. You'll need to give every item a key. Finally, when getting something from a dictionary, just type the key in the square brackets. With all this freedom, you can even create some senseless bullshit like this. Good luck lists enjoyers. You can lib through a dictionary just like you would do with a list. But when you run the program, you'll see that it only shows the keys from the dictionary. To go around this, you can use the keys to access its respective value in the dictionary. Or you could stop being a twink and put .items right before the colon and put another variable. Now, the first variable will represent the key and the second will represent its value.
Functions are blocks of code that do some action and can be used later how many times you need. Python already comes with a whole lot of them, like len, sum, or input. Note that they always end with parentheses. That includes this weird print. Damn, I've never heard about that one. Speaking of which, it's possible to join two text strings together using a plus sign. Maybe I should have told you that earlier. You can create a function by typing def. What does def stand for?
Defuckist this. After that, type the very mature name of your function, ending with a parentheses and a colon, and write whatever you want it to do. After testing, you'll see that it shows the same thing your portfolio shows. Nothing. That's because you need to call it first, dumbass. Call it by typing your function name and a parentheses, and boom. Now you can go ooga booga to test this. Okay, you can stop now. Seriously, stop.
But hold on, the sexiness of functions doesn't stop there. Functions can also have something called parameters. Parameters are like variables that you can only use inside that function. They are created up here in the parentheses and can be used freely within the function. But now, when calling it, you have to give a value for those parameters. I know your slow-ass brain is confused, so let me explain in the simplest way possible. Take this amount parameter, for example. When calling, I'm giving a value of 4. So every amount variable inside that function will now be the number 4. In this case, making it loop 4 times. The function will work differently depending on the information you gave its parameters.
And guess what? There's more. Take a look at this function, len. How it works is simple. You give it a list, dictionary, or even a text, then it will do some crazy math and give back the length or size of that. I'll put a list here with 2 items inside it, and then it will give me the number 2, so I can store it in a variable. What I'm saying is, functions can give, or better, return something, unlike the return that you expect that girl to give you someday. In the bottom of your function, write return and something for it to return. This can be anything, a text, a number, a list, or some crazy math. But remember to store it in a variable or use it right away. An important thing to have in mind is the function will end once it hits a return. So if you have some code below the return, it won't run, unless the return is in an if statement. And after all this, I'm still just scratching the surface of what you can really do with functions. There's some other crazy stuff relating them, like lambda functions or optional parameters, but I'll spare you this time and end it here for now. You would get lost anyway.
Modules are a separated file that stores some code, so you can access it anytime later. Like functions, Python already comes with some modules built in. To check what are those modules, use the help function and pass it the word modules. This have to be printed. After that, it should show a list of modules in your terminal. To check more details about one of them, pass a module name to the help function. Now, to use one of them, in the very top of your code, type import and the module's name. To get something from that module, like a variable or a function, write the module's name and follow it by a dot, then what you want from that module. In this example, I'll use the sleep function from the time module. You pass it an amount of seconds, and it will pause the code for that period.
All right, now picture this. You have a lot of Python projects in a folder, and all of them share a same function, or a lot of functions. And every time you want to use one of them, you have to copy and paste it to your current project. Very annoying, huh? Well, then stop being an unevolved fetus and create a module. To do so, create a new file, and then load it with your oh-so-very useful code. In another file, at the very top, type import and the name of the file that holds your functions. Note that, to do it this way, the files have to be in the same folder, you fucking retard! Fine, if you want to put it in another folder like this, you'll need to include the name of the folder followed by a dot, then the file's name. Also, if you were stupid enough to name your file poorly, you can use the keyword as to rename it. So now, when referring to that module, you'll have to use what's here instead.
Now that we've stepped into keywords, let's talk about the from keyword. With it, you can import only specific items from a module, rather than the entire thing. By doing it this way, there's no need to include the module's name before the item you ripped from it. Now, to the fun part. Packages. Packages are a collection of modules that someone smarter than you, and me, made and published for anyone to use. And boy, there's many. You have from packages that assist you with machine learning, task automation, maths, to even the fucking server logic from World of Warcraft. In Chinese! Man, that thing goes deep underground. If you want to enjoy some of those packages, you can access them through the official Python website, python.org. Type this one right. Don't fucking blame me if you were dumb enough to access a malicious website. Next, click up here in the PyPy. Now, I'll give you 3 seconds to figure out what button lets you browse through the projects. That's right, the subscribe button. It will show every package available for free. You can trust me 100%. Finally, search for some module, or choose a topic here on the side. Then, it will show you a lot of packages related to that for you to experiment with. I'll go with PyAutoGUI for demonstration. This package allows you to automate stuff in your PC, like moving your mouse around, clicking stuff, pressing keys. It's a very cool package, you may give it a try. Usually, the package that you select will have something like this: pip install something. If it does, simply go to your code editor and write that in the terminal. If you didn't mess anything up, it should begin the installation. In case it doesn't show this pip install part in the website, well, after the installation, import it to your project and use it as you wish. Most packages have some documentation, that is, a place where you can check how to use the stuff from that package, pretty much like a manual, so it's worth searching around. Or, go back to your AI daddy.
What the hell?
And with that, we are finished. Obviously, Python has a lot more to offer, but the rest you'll have to figure out in your own. Though I doubt you could do something by yourself. This video was intended to be a summary of some of the basics of Python. And now you should be able to at least build a computer from scratch. Before you go, have something in mind. Coding, like many things in life, is learned through practice. So you won't learn anything by laying back in your chair while eating spicy chips, dumbass. So, you know what time it is?
Exercise time!
Is anyone still there? Guys? Fuck it.
Starting with a classic one. Create a program that converts Fahrenheit degrees into Celsius. Or the reverse of that, in case you're a patriotic American.
This is a good exercise to learn about a function that I didn't told you about yet, the input function. When it runs, it'll ask for some value on the terminal and wait for response. Type something there and press enter. Then it will return to the program what you typed. So if you equal it to a variable, you can easily store what you wrote there. Another important function that will help you here is the float function. You see, by default, the input function will return a string, a text, even if you type a number there. The float function will convert that string into a decimal number if possible, so you can make sure it is really a number.
Mixing everything together, it'll look something like this.
Second exercise, a rock, paper, scissors game. This too is a good exercise to use the input function. I recommend showing a table in the start of the game. Associating the rock, paper, and scissors to numbers, so you can use these numbers for the checks.
Joining the team of functions that will save your ass here comes the int function. This function is very similar to the float one, the only difference being that float only works with decimal numbers and int with whole numbers. If you try to change that order, it'll throw an error. Translation: just swap the float for int in this one and you'll be fine. What you'll have to do is generate a random number between 1 and 3. That will work like the opponent's choice. Then compare it to the input value and print the result. You'll need a way to generate a random number. So why don't you try figuring that out by yourself? If it gets too hard for you, take a look at this module. Third one, an auto clicker. It may sound hard, but can be made in less than 10 lines of code. Hint, you'll need the PyAuto GUI package for this one. There's only two things needed for this exercise: a function that emulates clicks and a loop to keep it clicking. Remember your accidental infinite while loops? They're going to be useful now. Who would have guessed? By simply typing while true, you create an endless loop. This is useful to keep the mouse clicking how long you need.
Aight bro, but how do I stop it?
Don't worry, move the mouse to any corner on the screen and it'll stop. Even if that doesn't work, click on this trash icon on the terminal and it stops.
Fourth, the last and easiest one.
Come on, you've studied for that. Anyways, that's all for now. This was my very first video. I still have a lot of things to learn, so please leave your feedback down in the comments. If you liked it, consider subscribing. You could watch this channel grow, or fall, whatever happens with it. What, are you not doing it?